Welcome to Ascend to Earth, the podcast where embodiment is the ascension. I'm Virginia Underwood, your co-host and sacred wisdom keeper, oracle, and earth steward. I'll be joined by my daughter and co-host, Hannah Pearl, soul alchemist, astro herbalist, and intuition mentor. This is a space for the seekers, the sensitives, the cycle breakers, and the wild hearts returning to their truth. Each episode will explore what it means to come home to the body through sacred conversation, emotional alchemy, nervous system healing, ancestral wisdom, and earth-based spirituality. We'll also be sitting in circle with other wisdom keepers, visionaries, and embodied leaders, voices who are here to midwife the new world. Here, we don't escape, we descend, we feel, we root, we rise. Let's ascend to Earth. Today, we're going to be talking about the liminal spaces and, being in that place between the ending of something and the beginning of something else.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like we find ourselves here a lot.
Yeah, pretty often, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like, well, I say this all the time. I feel like I am always in the middle of a transition. Everywhere I go, like something just started or something's ending. Well, actually, it's usually both. I feel like you can't have one without the other.
Yeah. Yes, I feel I feel that. I feel like I'm definitely in the middle of a liminal space right now. There's so much that feels like it's coming to an end, whether they're, cycles, um, patterns of thought, or physical things like, jobs ending, relationships ending.
Hmm.
And I feel all these new energies like right there, but I haven't quite moved into them. Like they're lining up. There are things I can see little movements in these directions, but it's not crystal clear how they're going to unfold or what some of them are actually even going to look like.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like I see a couple different images, and um, one of which is the Ouroboros, so the snake eating its own tail. And it's hard to see like where the ending is and where the beginning is. It's all kind of the same thing. Um, and then also I see like when cells split, making other cells, you kind of have that like weird in between where it's all mushy and like yeah, just kind of goop. Like it's not really formed yet, and it kind of does. It's like dissolving out of something else and like making into like something else, and so you're just kind of in this weird. You're floating in the goop,
Mm,
like things aren't formed yet, which is actually a really cool place to be because you do get to have like you kind of get to co-create in that goopy space and start to form the goop into something
hmm
that you
Well,
want.
yeah, it's like having some clay when you're a kid. You have this, you pour out the Play-Doh and it's this cylindrical shape, and you can make it like I like to squish it.
Mhm.
all together. And then you can make anything out of that.
Yeah. Just like what do you, as far as your imagination can go, what do you
Right?
want to create? Because you can get caught up in the, I feel sometimes I feel like being in the liminal space, especially being in the society that we're in, where it's set up to be very comfortable and like um, it's not logistical to be in the liminal space, to be in the in between. It's dark and it's like you have to trust. You can't see everything that's forming and everything that's leaving or why it's leaving or why it's coming or whatever. So you just have to trust. But everything in our society is set up to like we need to know, we need to plan, we need to like foresee, we need to be comfortable, um, knowing what's going to happen next or whatever. Um, so being in the liminal space, there can be a tendency I feel like to go either attached to what's being like what's leaving, what's um, dissolving, or to attach to what's coming in, and that can be like excitement or anxiety about the future, about what that's going to look like. But all of it is a distraction from right here, which is
Mm.
the muck and the confusion. Like being okay with being confused
Yes.
because it doesn't have to make sense because it will make sense. And the only way it's going to make sense is as soon as you stop trying to make sense of it.
Yeah. Trying to
You just
figure it out.
let it.
Yeah, that reminds me of years ago after going through, a whole bunch of crazy things in my life basically feeling like it was flipped upside down and shooken out. Um, I did a journey and I went to visit a Hawaiian kahuna who had recently passed over. And I said to him, "Oh man, like I just don't understand what's happening in my life. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I feel so confused." And he just laughed at me and he said, "Confusion is a good place to start." And I left that journey going, well, what the hell does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Confusion is a good place to start. Like, but that's that liminal space too, is that feeling of confusion, of I don't know. I don't know what's up. I don't know what's down. I don't know what direction I'm supposed to go. It's that when the tower has fallen and the dust has settled and there's all these pieces lying in all these different places, and it's which piece do I pick up first? How do I start to organize this so that I can build this into something new that's going to be solid and, support me the way that I'm looking for, because clearly this didn't work.
Yeah.
This has ended.
Yeah. I feel like um, school, for whatever reason, or not for whatever reason, but school, like, ingrained this idea, at least going to public school, was like this idea that you have to know the answer. And if you don't, then you're you're stupid or something. Like at least that was how I perceived it. I never wanted to answer the questions in fear that I would be wrong, you know. Um, and so then it kind of, I feel like, developed this subconscious belief that unless I knew, like, being confused was a bad thing. Being confused was um, less than, or meant that I wasn't good enough, or whatever. So now it's like there's that trigger whenever the confusion comes up. I could go down the road of being like over identifying with it and then feeling like it's a reflection of my worth and my value. If I don't know this, if I'm confused, and that means that I'm not going to figure it out, that I'm just stupid or I'm slow or whatever. And it's like, in order to figure it, the only way you can figure it out is to be confused and not know, because that's like even having the desire within itself to know something or to learn something or to go in a certain direction is you going in that direction. And that's it. Like like when we learn to walk as babies, we're like fumbling around, and but we have this desire to move and to go and so we have to like fumble in order to walk. And it's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing something that you've never done before. You're not going to know how to do it. It's going to be different, confusing, whether that's a mental thing, a physical thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. Anything you're doing new, you have to create those neural pathways for it. And, like let's say, for example, you're changing a um, behavioral pattern and you, I don't know, what's a good one? You're just training yourself to do something different. So, okay, here's a silly one. Um, I'm training myself to put the reusable bags back in my car after I go to the grocery store. So as I start doing this, I forget all the time. Like I walk past the bag as I'm walking out the door all the time. Um, so, it's not, I don't know, I think I kind of even lost the whole train of thought in trying to figure out what the hell example.
Yeah, well, no, I get what you're saying though, because you are trying to train yourself and you forget the bags and you leave them and then you get in your car and you're like the bags, or you get to the store and you're like the bags, and then you do that so many times and then you're like, okay, now I'm putting it in the car, and then you go into the store and you forget them in the car, and then you go and you're like, ah,
Yes,
the bags, and then it's like this process and you just keep going until, and it's like you have to have enough frustration almost in order to remember, like you have to have that friction to do it.
friction. Yes,
So it's like our belief about the feeling of friction, our belief about the feeling of confusion are what get us trapped. Because if we just allowed ourselves to feel those things, then we fucking figure it out a lot faster. But if we're shaming ourselves and condemning ourselves for being like, oh, you're so bad, you forgot the bags in the car, like you're stupid, or like, oh my God, you're doing that thing again, or oh, I'm confused, I don't know what anything means in my life. That must mean that I'm never gonna do anything cool. It's like, no, that's just a part of the process. Just let yourself have that process. It's like, it, yeah, it's gonna be shaky. It's not gonna look the way that you think that it should look, or that you want it to look, or how it looks. Like when somebody has done something, they've like mastered something, and they are so good at it that they make it look easy as fuck. And you're just like, wow. Like you look at them and you're like, I can totally do that. Like, and then you do it and you like fall flat on your face and you're like, oh my God, that's insane. It's because they've done it, but they've done it so many times, and they got past the part where they kept doing it
right.
regardless of falling on their face a billion times or forgetting the bags in the fucking car. It really meant something to them.
Yes.
They kept going.
Yeah. It reminds me of Michael Jordan's story. Like when he first, what I remember of his story is that when he first started playing basketball, he just had the desire. He didn't really have the ability, right? Like he talk about fumbling balls, like he couldn't make baskets and whatever. And I remember hearing that when he was a freshman in high school, he didn't make the basketball team. And so he kept playing and he kept practicing and he kept practicing and, going through that awkward fumbling the ball stage, and just kept doing it. And then, I mean, look at the star that he became.
Hmm. It
And
literally, I feel like, is how many stories are like that? That's one
right,
of so many. Like you hear all of these stories of these people that do like these really incredible, amazing things, and they have that similar story of like, well, I never, you know, didn't make the basketball team, or I didn't like nobody accepted my book or whatever. Like nobody saw me, and then they're the people because they kept going because that they believed and beyond belief because they desired and they wanted that so badly and they made the choice to keep going even when it was uncomfortable was the reason why they got to where they are. And so I feel like when we're doing stuff and we're confused as to why it's not working the way that we think it should and we want to give up, we really that's being in that liminal space is like you really get to choose. You're deciding what's really important to you.
right. Yeah. Which is why confusion is such a great place to start because when you don't know, then you can start to sort through the things that you have in front of you
Mm-hmm.
and decide which one feels better, which one feels like the right path forward.
Yeah.
And you can do that. Which one actually works,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I mean,
Yeah. I was just thinking about retrograde periods in astrology and how there's always like the oh no, Mercury is in retrograde or a planet went in retrograde. That's scary. This is horrible. Like this is I gotta brace myself to have like a terrible time. Like that's what it feels like in when I hear people talk about in daily life. People talk about like Mercury retrograde or whatever. They start to get like oh great, here we go. And it's like but that just shows you our relationship with confusion. And because retrograde is a perfect time, that is when you're supposed to be sorting out like does this work for me, and like first of all, how fucking cool is that we have this ability in life to pause to like press the pause button, and you don't have to have it all figured out, and you like get permission to like slow down and think about what you're doing before you do it and actually go okay, I think I'm going to do this, no actually I'm going to do this, and like it's fine, you know
yes.
that's
Yeah.
really cool actually.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
don't have to be on all the time. We
No.
Yeah, and that's what the hustle culture or the that masculine driven go 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 all the time is like feeling like we build up these identities or these beliefs that we have to be doing in order to be productive when rest is so incredibly necessary and productive
Right.
as well.
And isn't it interesting when we rest, we actually tend to get more done in a shorter period of time. I know
Yeah.
for me, when I feel well rested, I'm able to get into a flow state after that and do all these things that if I hadn't allowed myself to rest, I'd still be working through because I would have, you know, felt frustrated because I didn't have the brain capacity or the couldn't see because I'd been so focused on this one thing that I need to take a step back. Like I have so many more brilliant ideas when I go for a walk and get away from whatever it is that I'm working on than if I sit
Mhm.
there and just try to figure it out.
Yeah, it's like the shower thoughts.
Yeah, right?
Go take a shower because you're resting and you're not doing anything necessarily, like it's like you're taking care of yourself. You're then all the really interesting ideas come about because you're
Hmm.
not fucking trying.
Great.
Yeah.
You're allowing. You're not
Hmm.
resisting what is, being presented to you right then,
You
like,
soften in the
right.
face of resistance.
Yeah. Your body says, I'm tired. So you listen to it, don't resist that, and keep trying to work. And I know that pattern so well because that's what I lived for many years. I can remember when you were younger, like I'd work because I worked from home, I would work until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And um, my husband, your stepdad, would be like, come, get out of there, stop working.
Hmm.
When are you done? I want to hang out.
Yeah. Yeah. I have done that as well with like school or working on my business or something. Like I'll just like I just always find I'm like, oh, I have so much to do. I have so much to do. I can always find all these things to do all the time. And then by the end of the day, I'm like exhausted and I still have a bunch of shit to do. The next day, it's the same thing. So then it's like, okay, but do you actually have to do all of those things right now? Because like what happens when there's an inconvenience, inconvenience, and you have to pause, or like you have children and they interrupt you or whatever, and then they're like, they feel really like whatever they want to do is really necessary. You gotta like take time to do that, but like everything that you thought you had to do wasn't obviously that important because nothing fell apart or whatever. So you could actually go and play with your kid or like go take a walk or whatever and
Right,
hang out at night and not be on your computer. Like, because it's still gonna be there. Wherever you drop it, it's still gonna be there. It can
right.
pick up.
Truth. Yeah. So
So
those
yeah.
liminal spaces are so important for our growth. It's like the resting period for plants. I mean, if you think about the life cycle of like a perennial plant, it has a dormant period when it's cold and it's
Hmm.
not focused on growing leaves or fruits. It's focused on its roots and just sustaining itself through the colder months to
Hmm.
then like in the spring it just goes to town and gets taller, it gets bigger. Maybe it didn't fruit last year and so this year it's providing those fruits. It's got to rest so it can grow and
Yeah.
live its
Yeah. It's like
life.
when you go into something, I don't know. I'm thinking about like leading a class or something like that, where like if you just go into it, like it can be messy and like awkward and like you don't take a second beforehand to breathe, to like center yourself, and then I mean, it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. If you just take a fucking breath before you do it, you feel better. And then you can enter into what you're doing with more awareness. Like, and we all know that being more grounded and more aware is more efficient. Like, we feel
Right.
it, when you do that, you're like, oh, wow, yeah, that went really smoothly. But when you go into it with like all these thoughts just like attacking you or whatever, um, then it's messy.
Right. Yeah, it
Or
doesn't work. Yeah. So what do you do when you're navigating liminal spaces? Like, what are some ways that you help yourself to kind of navigate that with grace and ease?
well, take it slow for one. I think first and foremost, that's like the most important thing. Breathe. You know, like make like really like genuinely make time to breathe. And like if I'm feeling frustrated or confused or whatever, then I how can I allow myself to be that? How can I sink in deeper to the feeling of confusion? Like, okay, yeah, I'm confused. Instead of being like, oh, I gotta figure it out. What does this mean? It's like, okay, yeah, I'm confused. Yeah, I'm. How can I be even more confused? Like I want to get really, really deep into the feeling of confusion. And I feel like the liminal spaces are the spaces where we are figuring out what it is that we want. We are finding clarity in exactly what we desire and what that looks like. So, like, for me, writing is really helpful because I can write out my feelings. And then, usually, as I write, I notice a pattern of like, I start off with all the jumbled confusion, whatever. And then by the end of it, there's a lot more clarity. Like, I can kind of, there's that practice in that book called The Artist's Way, called, and I can't remember what she called it, but I always imagine it as the brain drain because it's literally like you're turning on a faucet and all this shit is coming out. And then the more that you write, the clearer it becomes. Like you just got to let the clog out, you know?
Yeah.
And then all the clear water comes flowing out. So
Morning
that is really
pages.
helpful. Say what?
They're called
Morning pages.
morning pages.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I for some reason started calling them brain drains because it just made sense. But yeah, you're not thinking about what you're writing. You're just allowing yourself to write, um, without getting too caught up in it. And then yeah, it just it becomes really clear. It feels a lot, you feel a lot more clear and open. Um, and even then, even with that, you don't have to know what it all means. It just feels good to kind of sort out some of those tenser feelings like internally. And moving my body, like for me, it's that's been a really big thing. Whenever I feel really confused, I feel like it's my body's screaming for attention. Like just come inside, just sit down, just like move, you know, like you don't have to figure it out. You just have to, or like the confusion is a signal within itself that I'm thinking too much, that
Mhm.
I'm trying too hard to figure it out. And so the best way for me to feel those feelings is to like get into my body and just move my body and move with the confusion. Let it like make space for it. Like, oh, you want to be here? Okay, like let me open up. Like get comfy, you know?
Yeah.
Um yeah. So yeah, that's what I would say. What would you say?
I would agree with all of those practices. You know, it really depends on um, where I'm at mentally or emotionally. Sometimes movement is really helpful, especially for me, walks, like going out into nature and being immersed in the woods, walking barefoot on the feet. On the feet. Yes, yeah, I hope you walk barefoot on your feet. Walking barefoot on the earth, that's really helpful, and not necessarily to, lessen the confusion, but just to feel okay in it. Because ultimately, for me, what I want to do, what I feel is really the most helpful for being present is to just allow myself to feel whatever it is without having to change it, without it needing to be something different. Just I'm confused. Okay, I'm confused. How does that feel? How does it feel?
Hmm.
What's happening in my body as I'm feeling confused? What's happening in my mind? Like, where does it want to go? Um, how do I, how am I trying to distract myself through this? Just asking myself questions and like sitting with this feeling. Because I know for me, growing up, like it wasn't okay to have feelings most of the time. Especially because my feelings were really big. There was a lot of them. And so my caregivers, my parents, couldn't deal with, they didn't want to look at their own feelings. So therefore, this child that has these really big ones, whoo, we need to shut that down. So I'm really working on, and I think this is true for a lot of people, that we're having to work on sitting with those feelings and letting ourselves have them instead of pushing them down, because that's really what I feel the biggest reason that I experienced so much illness, 10 years ago was because I had pushed those feelings and tried to distract myself from them. So
Hmm.
now, yeah, that's not as uncomfortable as it is, as much as I want to move or change it or, you know, figure out the plan, because that was another thing. Like I always had a plan. Life made sense. It was logical. I could map it out. And as I've gotten older and gone through what I've gone through, I've realized how ridiculous to be so rigid, not to not have a plan, but to be so rigid in a plan that it has to be this way or that. Um, and ultimately, I mean, at 50 years old, I've witnessed myself go through all these different um, iterations of who I am, trying to figure out who I am. And all of them are a part of me, but none of them are me, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally makes sense.
Um, but I think I kind of got off. Just sitting in the feelings has been the most helpful in allowing myself to feel confused, and it goes back to something that we talked about a little bit last week with the an emotion only lasts for about 90 seconds, and so if you can sit with it, then it's going to change. And the more that I do that, the more that I see how true that is. Like it's not as uncomfortable as, I mean, painful, like going through a divorce or a breakup or somebody dying or,
Hmm.
losing your job. All of these things feel incredibly intense, and that can be really painful to sit in.
Yeah.
And and it's that idea of as low as I can go is also as high as I can reach. You know, the fact that I've allowed myself to feel these depths means that I can feel this same level intensity of joy. And I mean, I'm here for that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's the depth of intimacy that you can have with yourself, and you can only meet someone as deep as you've met yourself. So if you can sit with yourself through those depths and through those heights, then you can also share in those with other people too. Be in connection with, and that, that's what we're here for, is to be in connection and community with each other. But we have to find that within ourselves first. We have to be able to go there, because the vulnerability is what breeds connection. When you can be vulnerable, when you can be deep, when you can go in either way, it's vulnerable either way, right? Like whether you're depressed or like super excited, like there's vulnerability in that. And that's what helps to connect with other people. It's fucking relatable. We're all seeing a part of ourselves in some way.
Right.
And yeah, it's really beautiful. It is hard at times. Sometimes it's hard to be really happy, you know?
Right. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we haven't, well, I can tell you that as a child, when certain people were around, it wasn't okay to be happy.
Yeah.
We had to hide that stuff. We had to, you know,
You learned it wasn't safe
right. There you go. It
to
wasn't
feel
safe.
excitement or whatever, those more heightened feelings. And so
Or,
then, adulthood, it can be, I've learned through parenthood how difficult. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I really don't let myself, you know, feel excitement or feel happy, because I'm like, I forgot how to play. And I have this little kid who's always asking me to play, and it's like, oh, I can play in the ways of which I'm comfortable playing, or what I think play looks like, but he doesn't want me to play like that. He has all these other ideas of what he wants to play like, and I'm like, oh, I can't do that. That's uncomfortable. Like, but then you question, if you let yourself feel that. There's a question that's like, why? Why not? You know, why can't I do that? Why can't I extend myself like that? Where in my life did I start to feel like that was too much or whatever? Then you just soften to the tense feelings. Let yourself you let yourself go there and look like a fool, feel like a fool.
mm,
Feels goofy as hell.
yeah, enjoy the fool.
Yeah, it's like there's so many cultures that like revere the fool. Like that is like,
Yes.
that's the liminal space right there. I mean, shit, you're about to free fall, or you're about to like fall off this cliff, you know, into nothing, into whatever. But you're
Hmm.
going in it with this like confidence, with this like, I got this. Some might call that naive,
Hmm.
but is that a bad thing?
Well, aren't you naive when you start anything?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you go into it and you're like, if I would have known that all of this stuff was going to happen, then I wouldn't have done it. So you have to have a little bit of naivety to go into anything and actually
Right.
do it. Because if you don't, you wouldn't do it.
Probably not. Most things, no.
Yeah. No. Shit. There's so many things in my life where I was like, damn, if I would have known, I would not be here right now. I would not be doing that. But I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah.
So grateful that I did. I'm so glad that I didn't know.
Yes.
That just gave me chills.
Yes.
Like that's cool. Like I'm so glad that I didn't know. Can you feel grateful for the confusion?
Yeah.
Can you feel grateful for the fact that the things that you don't see are such a blessing to you right now? What you're
Right?
not seeing is a fucking blessing.
Yeah, all those things that didn't work out, you know,
Yeah.
you don't know why they didn't work out. And most of them didn't work out because there was something about it you weren't seeing that wouldn't have boded well for your outcome.
Mm-hmm. And how many times in your life have you looked back and been like, I'm so glad that I didn't know that?
Yes. I'm so glad that didn't work out
Yeah,
because holy cow, can you imagine what type of person, where I'd be? You know,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Just brings you right back to right here, right now.
that's right.
The
And
one place, yeah, this is it.
yep. Yeah, if I'd have known that my house was going to burn down if I moved to California, I probably wouldn't have moved to California. But
Mm-hmm.
man, I can't tell you how grateful I am that my house burnt down. Talk about freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's liberation right there.
Yeah.
But you didn't know that you needed that.
No, I didn't know that that would be, I didn't know that this would be the benefit of it,
Mm-hmm. And how fucking cool. Just meant that you
right?
had to lose everything that you thought you owned, you
Hmm.
know? Yeah. Yeah,
To
there's so much.
realize that I never owned anything in the first place and
Exactly.
that I don't need to own anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so cool to have things and be able to give them to other people, if when they've served their usefulness instead of trying to hold on to them because maybe I'm going to need this somewhere down the road. No, my experience has been when I need it, it shows up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's so many people out there that are paying for storage units full of stuff that they won't use. They might potentially not use for the rest of their life, but they're going to pay for it until they die and then pass it on to their kin, and then
Yeah,
they have to figure out like what to do with all that stuff, which it's probably just going to who knows. But the point is that there's a lot of holding on that happens. A lot of people holding on to stuff mentally, physically, emotionally, because there's a safety, like that security of like, oh, well, like you said, I might need that one day, or I have this vision of what this could be. And that's so disconnected from,
right now.
do you need it right now? No, then you don't need it. Like we're like sitting here right now. Like literally everything that is around me right now is everything that I need in this moment. Everything else over there, it doesn't almost doesn't exist. Like
Yeah.
I don't need it. I could go. Yeah, I don't need it. uh, yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting being a human.
it sure is. Well, thanks for being a human, in my realm of reality.
Yeah,
I appreciate that you've incarnated in my sphere of knowledge.
likewise. It's funny. It's such an esoteric way to give. I'm grateful for your existence.
Oh, yeah. Well,
No, I'm here for it. I love it. Like that's the juice right there.
well, this seems like a good place to wrap things up. Is there any final thoughts that you have that you want to share about liminal spaces or
No, just if you're in one, keep going.
just be, just be.
Yeah, you're exactly where you need to be.
That's
Perfect.
right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have received something useful in this conversation, and we look forward to you joining us in the next one. Have a great day.